Hey, Twisted people. It's your girl here, Chauncey K. Robinson, aka Twisted Woman CKR. And thank you so much for joining me as I am going to be talking American Horror Story Double Feature, Episode 7. It's part 2 of this season. It's the second in the Double Feature, Death Valley, where we are talking aliens, y'all. It is in our face, even in Episode 1, which is technically Episode 7. Thank you all for joining me. It's always appreciated talking stories and horror, sci-fi, and all of that with all of you. Thanks, Hino, for joining the live chat. Hey, nice to join your stream. Mark, hi, CKR, and everyone. Yeah, thanks for joining, y'all. So we're talking about the beginning of Death Valley, and what we know, I believe, is that we're only getting like 4 episodes of this one. I think we got the 6 of Red Tide, and then we're getting like the 4 of this one, so a total of 10. And so we're getting this, and things happened. This was choices where I didn't know what I was looking at, y'all. It was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, there were some things that were awesome, right? And then there were some things where we're like, huh? Like, I don't know, but I'm also kind of reserving my judgment because I do know this is kind of, what they do. Sometimes the characters are really outlandish and not the most likable characters initially sometimes. And that's just what we're doing with it. My girl Pato is also joining us for this one. Mwah. Mwah. Okay. Fred, thanks for joining us, Fred, in the live chat. Excited to talk about this episode. Yeah, because there's a good amount to talk about, right? So, first and foremost, y'all, I want to know if you had to give this episode a grade, what would it be and why? Yes, Pato, what grade would you give it? Solomon joining us in the live chat. Thanks, Solomon, for joining. This episode was the literal definition of a mixed bag for me. It really, really was. Choices were made. So, let's talk about, I want to give my grade and kind of what I thought overall worked and what didn't work. And then I want to talk to you all about the things that happened and some theories and whatnot. So my grade for this episode was a B-. I think it wasn't as good for me as the first 2 episodes of Red Tide, because I thought Red Tide was just, and maybe Red Tide was more my speed when it comes to the horror. And I do like alien stuff. I do. I can like it when it's done well. So I was looking forward to this, but I also thought there were certain things that just didn't land as well for me. Teddy is saying I give it a C+, honestly. And Mark is saying the 50s part a 9, the current time a 4. And you hit the nail right on the head for where you said that, Mark, because I am of agreement. I think it's funny enough. I think there might be a good amount of us. Let me know if you're the opposite in the chat and in the live, in the replay for those watching. Because my honest opinion was I really liked the 50 stuff. I did. I was like, it's cool if we stay here for the majority of this episode. I would be completely fine with that. And then we got whatever that was with the present. Talk about unlikable characters from like the jump. It was like, whoa, who are these people and why do I care? Except for what ended up happening to them at the end, because it was just like, wow, are these okay? So this episode was written by Brad Falchuk, right? That's who wrote this one. Yeah, that's who wrote this one, right? And I'm not going to say it showed. I'm just going to say, one of the things I wrote in my notes was I called it a weird alien fanfic written by an oversexed teenager. That's what I felt like this episode was. It was like some weird alien fanfic written by an oversexed teenager, or maybe a teenager that hasn't had any sex and they just think about it all the time. That's what I got. Because wow. I love the 50 stuff though. And that's what really had me intrigued. I mean, it was so good. The 50 stuff was like, wow, what's going on? And the thing with the mom, it was scary at times too. Like stuff jumping out at their face and them trying to pull it off. And then the whole thing of like the woman being possessed by the aliens, it all really worked. And then we got whatever that present time was. So yeah, I think I'm in agreement with many of you, that this was very much a mixed bag. And I don't know why they did it that way necessarily, but we also know this universe has a tendency to sometimes drop the ball in the ninth inning. Is that right? Who watches baseball? In like the ninth inning, they kind of drop the ball or whatever it's called, where it doesn't always land. And this could have been a really great episode had they just stuck with the 50s first. But I also think maybe they did it this way is because we only have 4 episodes with this part of with the season. And so they had to show the 4th one. Cause I feel like if this was a longer season, we would have gotten all of the first episode being in the 50s and then the second part being whatever that was with the present, but we got this instead. Mark is pointing out the 50s is an A+, the current a C-. Hino is saying B. I give the grade a B. I love sci-fi and aliens. I love the 1950s part, but the present moments was a little dull for me, but I was intrigued by the ending. Yeah. Fred is saying, I'd give the first 17 minutes an A-. Good writing, great cinematography, and an interesting plot. Second half would be a C. The writing and acting wasn't great. The contrast was kind of jarring. It was very jarring. And then, of course, it came back around, but not so much. Hey, Tad, thanks for joining. Tad is saying, hey, gang. And Josh, thanks for joining. Hi, Chauncey. Yeah, hey, Tad. Hey, Josh. Solomon is saying the 50s part was atmospheric, but the modern part it definitely was from American Horror Stories for comfort. It really was. For people who have watched American Horror Stories, the spinoff, I mean, one of the actresses was in it. No, 2 of the actors actually was there. One of them being one of the characters that couldn't stand from American Horror Stories. And then the guy from one of the episodes I actually did like from American Horror Stories, which was the Naughty List. He was in it. That was fine. But Teddy saying the end had me like, what? Yeah. Yes, exactly. Mark is saying, yes, abduct those 4 and take them from our planet. Exactly. Okay, so let's kind of just dive into what actually happened this episode. So we had the thing of the 1950s, which was probably, I think what many of us are agreeing, probably the best part of the episode. So we had what seemed like a military base. They were in California around Death Valley, or maybe not a military base. It's always hard for me with the 1950s because we do know there were whole towns kind of built around like military bases and stuff like that. And I kind of felt like that was what the woman was dealing with, and maybe her husband worked at one of those facilities or something like that. Who knows? But he got killed immediately. And so we have the little boy who gets possessed by the aliens. It was a great opening scene. I mean, you had Dean Martin, whose voice I love, playing on the record player. It was just so eerie, such a throwback to old school alien movies. And I relished it, y'all. I absolutely loved it. And so, she gets taken in, the whole thing of flick of the wrist and the head explodes. I was like, this is perfect. This is great. I'm loving it. I really enjoyed that aspect. And then, we had the whole thing with the president, really, and then Amelia Earhart. Wow. She had been gone for 20 something odd years. There was such a great mystery going on there. It was great to see Lily Rabe play Amelia Earhart because she was done dirty as Doris in Red Tide. So it was nice that, although I have a feeling she's going to get done dirty in this too, because I mean, it's Amelia Earhart and she stayed missing in the real world. So I don't know if she's going to be able to go back into society. That's just my guess. So we have a thing where Amelia Earhart got abducted years ago. She was trying to do that famous journey around the planet, but she ended up supposedly in our world, we think there was a crash and it just never recovered. And now we're getting the idea that maybe she was abducted by aliens. So I love this mixture of history with the alien aspect. I think they're going to do something like that with Marilyn Monroe somewhere in the midst of this season as well. So I dug that. I don't know what's going on with it, but it seems like they're kind of going with the angle that the aliens are doing some type of biological experimentation on people, which is fine. Kind of makes sense they'd go that route with it. Although, I mean, if we really think about aliens being as advanced in technology as they are, why would they need to do that? But that's a whole other discussion of ancient astronaut theory, y'all, which is also my jam. So the opening was gross, though. That opening credit scene with all the like stuff coming out and everything, I was like, oh, it lets you know what we're in store for. And this it's all about the biology. It's all about bodily functions and the fluids, it seems, for this half. And so I think for those of us who have a little bit of a weaker stomach and things, we might be cringing a lot. I feel like we're going to be cringing a lot. But let me know what y'all think. Did you think this was they had to, because they always change the opening. Did you like this opening? Do you think it gives us a view of what we're probably going to be seeing going forward? I definitely think they're very much angling the whole biology thing. I think this goes with some of our theories about the black pill coming into play as some sort of kind of way of changing humans, maybe to be closer to aliens. I'm still sticking with that theory. Let me know if you have a different theory now after having watched this episode. Do you think? I do still think this is going to be connected to the black pill. And I don't think it's all going to be because Harry wrote this story. I think it's going to be because it comes back around to how we ended up getting the black pill. That's my guess. And I'm sticking with that because I think so far this first episode did not go against it, although it is doing a lot of stuff with the whole babies and everything. Josh is saying, I'm actually excited for this. I am too. I still have hope for this. I mean, it was a solid enough episode. I just could have done without whatever they were doing in the present. Tad is saying, I wonder if they were trying to show us how the deal trade-off for tech and using us for breeding is ending up. That's a thing too, right? Because there is conspiracy theories and things like that the president that we have at that time, that president that was shown in this, that there was kind of an understanding, right? That there's been conspiracy talk that in order to get the technology and stuff, there was sort of this idea that if they abducted people and did their experiments, the government would kind of turn a blind eye and kind of let them do that. And that's real world. That's theories we have for this world here. That's kind of what was the thing, that there was kind of a trade-off. And we did see some previews talking about the microwave being from aliens and stuff like that. So I feel like this may be a conspiracy theorist wet dream this part of the season, because I think there's going to be a lot of play into real world conspiracy theories that we have, and that is one of them, that people get abducted and the government knows about it. But let me know if y'all think that might be the case. But I think, Tad, you might be onto something with that. Fred is saying, I prefer Death Valley's opening credit over Red Tide. Very creative and distinct. Agreed. Mark is saying, I'm pretty sure ancient aliens covered the Amelia being abducted theory. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Yes. According to ancient astronaut theorists. I love that show. I do. Even though some of the stuff I do think is ridiculous, or they're just reaching. Teddy is saying, good episode until the present day. Characters were shown. Maybe one of those kids is the baby of the chemist ran away from Hollywood. Maybe. It depends on what year it is, though, right? Depends on what year. We don't know what year it is exactly, although it doesn't seem like they're that far technology advanced. So, but yeah, so what we're getting is that there's been contact made, and the president is now discussing it with this possessed woman. I really love this. I mean, I really love the cinematography. I'm, a sucker for the old school black and white kind of vibe sometimes. And we saw Sarah Paulson as the first lady, which was also very cool. Another character when she was TB Karen that was done wrong and dirty, y'all. So it was great to see her. And we got that. So I think what we're going to get from here is kind of understanding what the aliens thing are. And if we go by the preview, we do know that there's something going on where they want to extend the species. And for whatever reason, it's through us. And let me know, y'all. I'm actually kind of curious. Do you believe in alien abductions? Do you think they're real? Like, because most of the alien, it's very interesting that this is coming out as I'm reading the Carl Sagan book. Carl Sagan was a phenomenal, prolific scientist. And, you know, in one of his books, he talks about alien abductions, but he kind of debunks it. He says that, you know, he kind of talks about the whole thing of alien abduction and how it doesn't make as much sense scientifically in terms of an advanced species needing to take our eggs in such a way that they do with the kind of needles and things that they use. But I'm curious if people believe that. I'm curious to see if some of you believe that, because that, I mean, I think that's one of the aspects of aliens in horror, right? Because there is a part of us that believes it's true. So we get creeped out by, you know, what is it? Something of the fourth kind. Contact of the fourth kind. It flew out of my head, but you know, those things like, you know, could I be abducted in the middle of the night and stuff like that. And so I think they're playing on that, on the idea of people doing, you know, experiments and stuff, which makes sense because they do tend to like to be relevant in this show. Mark is saying the whole time jump made me think 80s at first. Why would they do that? It was obviously on purpose. Will there be time travel? Yeah, it did feel like the 80s, but then we saw the kind of phones and stuff they have. So it's not, even though the way the whole like Cheers and stuff, I got 80s vibe too, but the technology is clearly them in this time because they have smartphones, right? So I don't know. I just wasn't, it was, you know. Teddy is saying, yes, I believe they are real, but more supernatural rather than scientific. Okay. All right. Hino is saying, I do believe in alien abductions. One case that intrigued me was the first reported case of Betty and Barney Hill. Look it up. Kit Walker and Alma were based on these people. Yeah, I do. I have heard about that. Actually, Carl Sagan, the prolific scientist, talks about them too, and that situation and whether or not it was real. Because of the hypnotist and all this other stuff. It's very intriguing though, right? It's so intriguing, this idea of someone being able to kind of to have those thoughts and those things that happen, right? So, I mean, it's playing on that. And I think that might be interesting. So then we jump to the present time with our Ivy League group. And from jump, they're just obnoxious, right? And I kind of feel like maybe that's on purpose. Let me know what y'all think. I think a little bit of them, I think a little bit was made to make them be kind of obnoxious. Like the whole thing with the sake and like, oh my gosh, hobby. I went to Japan, telling everyone I went to Japan. His hobby, Coke. Her hobby, a breakup. Her hobby, you know, it's all kind of very, okay, these people are kind of vapid. Right. So I kind of believe that it is on purpose, though, maybe because of what's going to happen to them, especially if they're about to go through it with the alien abduction and all of them getting impregnated. So they go out into not the wilderness. They go out to the desert. I thought the whole montage was a little silly, but once again, I thought that was on purpose again to kind of have this thing like an Abercrombie and Fitch commercial sort of, and then dead cows. And I was like, okay, I can see the juxtaposition with that. So then they see the cows, which is also something we've heard about with alien stuff, that cows, you know, end up getting cut in half and stuff like that. They're taking all the tropes that if you pay attention to alien abductions and alien astronaut theories and all this other stuff, they were playing on that. So I thought the thing with the cow was very cool. And then I thought the scene with them in the car was actually quite scary. I did think that was pretty scary. And I love that. With the whole thing of the tentacles. I actually thought they all were going to die except one of them. That's what I thought was about to happen. And so when they didn't all die and they woke up in different seats and everything, I was like, okay, what happened? And then the girl was missing. And so I was like, oh, did they actually take her? But she was outside. And then, you know, fast forward, they're all pregnant. All of them. And it's like, how's that going to work? And it was also kind of weird, like that they made it so the aliens also impregnated the men as opposed to just taking their semen, right? Like, what's going on here? Getting to that point, I felt like their dinner all together, they're drinking the sake and stuff, was a little bit cringe. Like, I don't know why they needed to tell the story of the girl being allergic to semen. Uh, that whole conversation, I'm just sitting there like what? Like, why do we need to know this? And then I thought, well, maybe this will come into, maybe she'll like have a bad reaction to the alien semen. That's what I thought. I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to have her have a bad reaction to the alien semen or something? I don't know. I just thought, okay, because that couldn't just have been there just to be there, right? Like, why would that just be there? Like, that's such a random reason to break. Like, what? It just didn't make any sense to me. And then the whole thing about the two guys, you know, being together, I didn't mind that. It was cool. It was fine. But one of them's a cokehead. And then they had a whole conversation regarding them being sick about that condition that he was talking about he got from, you know, putting his mouth in certain places. And I also thought, what? I was just like, why are we? What does it have to do with anything? You know? And this is it. I'm like, I'm not a prude or anything. I'm not like, oh my gosh, like, why are we? But I think it was maybe this idea of preparing us for all the body horror we were gonna get. Because I think this one's gonna lean more on body horror. I got that sense from the opening credits that this is going to be very much more of a body horror kind of thing that they're doing, body gore, tentacles coming out of places and all this other stuff. And so maybe they're preparing us for that with some of this really in your face dialogue. But let me know what y'all think, because I was just like, why? What? And could you imagine I always imagine in certain shows where people are having some of the most TMI, too much information conversations in public spaces, that they should just always pan the camera to the person who has to be next to them in the booth, who kind of overhears what they're talking about and just like, really? I'm trying to eat. Like, we're in a restaurant. I don't want to hear about this guy jizzing on your chest. Like, what? Just weird. I mean, I laughed, but I was just like, I don't understand. This is such a definite stark contrast from what we were just getting of the 1950s. Let me see. Mark is saying many Christian groups believe that extraterrestrial are fallen angels and that could tie into the apocalypse, Michael Langdon, Antichrist, and the Satanists. Yeah. That is definitely a thing. There are many that believe that alien abductions are actually demons, that the whole thing of aliens are just demons trying to confuse humans to believe that they are aliens, but they're not really aliens, that they're actual demons. There's that as well, because that's their way of kind of explaining the idea that there could be aliens. Because if you have aliens, right, then you have to deal with the question of original sin and who created aliens. If the Bible says that God created man in his image, and if aliens don't look like us, then who created these people? And it gets complicated, right? So them having to address that makes sense. And I agree, Tad, poor cows. I don't like anything where I see animals get hurt. So Solomon was saying Ryan Murphy loves obnoxious characters, but every actor isn't Emma Roberts who can pull these characters off. Well, exactly. I almost felt like the girl from American Horror Stories who was playing the part in this one. I felt like that was totally kind of what Emma Roberts would probably play. But Emma Roberts isn't available at the moment. You know, she's had her kid and stuff like that. She's probably taking a break. And I was just like, yeah, he has his types, right? Like most writers do. They have the type of characters that they usually kind of write. So I'm not mad at that necessarily, but as you said, you have to have actors that can pull that off. If you're going to be obnoxious, you have to work on that. So because why would I follow around a character I can't stand and care about what's happening to them? That was my issue at the end of Red Tide, because they basically got, for me anyway, I felt like they got rid of all the characters that you would root for. Mickey, Karen, Doris, and they left us with all the jerks. And it was kind of like, well, how are we supposed to root for anybody? And as we saw with the way Red Tide ended bad because we didn't have anyone around to care about. So all we had to see was the fallout for the villains, the people we didn't care about, right? And I think that's the issue with some of this. So I think it might be hard if they're just going to focus on these 4 characters for us to have to pay attention what happens to them. Tad is saying we have crop circles in Iowa. Yes, I've heard about the crop circles, although I did hear that those were hoaxes back in the day, right? And these 2 guys actually admitted that they were hoaxes, but there could be other ones. Tad is saying also she seemed fine with ET sperm. She did seem fine with it because she wasn't, Mark has a theory of saying, I think her allergy to semen may be alluding to her boyfriend being an alien. That might be the case. But the question is, why isn't she having a horrible reaction right now to having gotten pregnant, right? How did that work? So let's see what else y'all are saying. Solomon saying, I thought that the girl semen story was going to result in her learning the guy was an alien, which is why it felt like acid. Yeah, although it's not an uncommon thing, it actually is. There are people who are allergic to semen in the real world, right? So that's actually a thing. There are people who are allergic to semen, who have bad reactions to it. So that's why I just was like, I mean, I did go with the alien thing afterwards, but then I was also kind of like, this also just could be some random conversation that makes us think that it's something deeper. Because as we know with this show, we sometimes think stuff is really, deep, but it wasn't, it didn't go that deep, right? Because we always give this show a lot of space and then they kind of go with the most basic thing. Let's see. Rachel, thanks for joining us in the chat. Rachel saying, I thought it was an over-the-top way to show she couldn't be pregnant from a human. Yeah, that might be, and you might be right, that maybe they're showing that if she's pregnant, it has to be from something else because she's allergic to semen. So, but it was just so like I was just like, but then the whole conversation with the guys too, like, hey, babe, when was the last time and it was just like, what are we doing here? Like, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it made sense to kind of drive home why they were sick too, that it couldn't have been that, Teddy is saying, I think they're all going to react to the Pato. You're on my thingy. Sorry, guys. I like Ryan's type of characters. I love snarky characters like Emma and Leslie. I love them the most. I think they can work, but I also think you need characters people like, right? As well. Teddy is saying, I think they are all going to react to the insemination in different ways, but only one will actually give birth. And the question is, who's going to go through with the birth and how? I mean, I think one of the guys could, but maybe the babies comes out of them, like a la Alien, the horror movie, right? There could be that as well. That happens. I mean, let me know, y'all. Do y'all think all of them are going to carry it to term, or just one of them going to survive? Maybe they all don't survive, Mark is saying maybe his pH is off and he need to drink more water. That too. Isn't that a thing? That is actually a thing. See, this is what I mean. Stuff like that ends up having to get into conversations like this. Wasn't there a Sex and the City episode where one of the girls was dating a guy and his stuff was like bad and she had to try to get him to eat more pineapple or something? It happens, I guess. I don't know. But this is what I mean. It's very in your face, which is like, okay. So that part was so. And then we got to the end where they all were pregnant. And I do love the fact that they played it where all of them were pregnant. Because I think that's what caught us off guard. It was like, okay, the 2 girls are pregnant. Maybe they took the other guy's semen. But now that we figure all of them are pregnant, it's like, are their bellies going to grow? Like, what's going to go on? And we got like 3 more episodes of it. So things got to happen kind of quick, right? Yeah, rice pudding, the Samantha from Sex and the City. Yes, exactly. That was the whole thing. Ray is saying the semen allergy girl was the least dynamic of the characters and basically seemed like the same personality as her Love Victor character. Yeah, she is. The actress is from Love Victor. I mean, I like seeing her because I love when they add some color on these shows, to be honest with you, because I think there's a lack of that in the universe sometimes when it comes to American Horror Story. But yeah, she was kind of the sweet one, although it's very clear that the girl from American Horror Stories is kind of the main girl in this one. Fred is saying, in the promo, it shows Troy, college student, in black and white. So time travel is very likely. Okay. So maybe he goes back somehow. Solomon saying, I'm not sure if any college kid will survive, especially since the character's name were introduced with foul tags and descriptions. True. So it's definitely something where the government's probably going to find out about them, right? Tad is saying, I guess a question for everyone. If you were a guy and pregnant, would you go to the hospital or government because you're never getting out again? True, right? And especially after you went to the desert and you can't remember what happened for a couple hours, you're definitely going to be like, okay, that was aliens. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would go to the government because honestly, even if you go to the hospital, eventually they're going to call the government because they're going to be like, what's going on here? They got to do an ultrasound. They got to figure out what's up in there, right? But yeah, overall, I just thought this episode was a little bit of a mixed bag. It was, I guess I'm a little concerned because we only get 4 episodes with this one. And correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but I do think it's just 4 episodes with Death Valley. And I worry that this might leave us in want because things did happen very quickly, but it's kind of like, where's all this going in like 3 episodes? And are we going to get enough of what we want? Right. Yeah, I'm not sure. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't love this episode. I liked it. And I had a strong like for the 50 stuff. I kind of understood why they did the present time stuff the way they did, but I don't know. Let me know, y'all. Do y'all think they made them obnoxious on purpose so we won't care what happens to them? Yeah, I kind of feel like maybe they did with this one, but yeah, I dug it. I mean, that's mostly what I could talk about for this episode because although it was atmospheric and things happened, it was kind of very large things that happened. Not too many detail stuff. I am curious what you all are feeling in terms of your theories. Do you think this is going to be connected to our red tie, and in what way? I know we've been talking about that. We talked about it in episode 6. With it, I still contend that this is gonna be how we figure out how the pills came about. Mark is saying, I really want Kit Walker from Asylum to be Amelia or Alien Baby, but the time does add up. Fred is saying 4 episodes is very short, and this episode was only 38 minutes. I don't understand why we needed the 7-minute restaurant. I don't know. Like that, I agree with you, Fred. I was like, what? Why did we need all that time with those characters? I don't understand. So Betty, thanks for joining us in the chat. So Betty is saying, hello. I had a hard time with this episode. I wanted more red tie. Agreed. This episode was, yeah. Hino is saying, did you check out Angelica Ross's character in the promo for next week? Alien Hybrid. Her name is Theta. Huh. I didn't, you know what? I gotta rewatch it because I did watch the promo for next week, but you know, they go so fast. So y'all are picking up stuff that I didn't even see. So are you saying that she might be a different character, that she's not the chemist, or that she's the chemist before she became the chemist and her name is Theta? Because that would be very interesting. I think that would be very interesting. Teddy is saying maybe this will tie into Asylum at some point. Maybe. I mean, if they had aliens and stuff, right? It might do that. Ray, bro house, give me some more. Smash a can on my head. Bro house, for those of you who didn't watch American Horror Stories, is referring to one of the characters that we have on here who's playing one of the guys, and he was on the naughty list, and their thing was the bro house. So you know they do love reusing their actors, y'all. So yeah, y'all, that it was a B- for me. It was definitely a B-. I do think this is going to tie in with the pills. I'm interested in that. In a way, I wish that it was sort of a longer season though, because I'm if Red Tie ended the way it is, I think I'm going to be dissatisfied with how this ends. But I don't want to jinx myself. No jinx, no harm. You know, I'm not going to jinx myself, but we'll see. But yeah, y'all, let me know your thoughts. And if you haven't already, please do give this video a like or a thumbs up. And if you want to show some super chat love, that is always appreciated. But either way, I love talking stories with you all here. And yeah, we'll see where this goes. I'm still optimistic. I'm more optimistic in the 50 stuff than whatever that is in the present. But I guess we'll see where it goes. But yeah, thank you all for joining me for this, and it's always appreciated. So please enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you are watching Evil on CBS / Paramount Plus, check me and my mother, the woman who made it all possible because she made me possible. We will be talking about that this Tuesday. And if you are watching Why the Last Man, I also talk about that on Tuesdays. And yeah, if you are watching Midnight Mass, if you watch that one on Netflix, I'm going to do a spoiler discussion this upcoming week. So check out for that. So let's continue talking stories. And if any of you have recommendations for a new series that's coming out, sci-fi or horror, and you think I should check it out, let me know. Maybe I'll start doing a live stream on that. I'm always interested in new stories. I was almost tempted to start doing La Brea, y'all. I know if you've seen La Brea, what that looks like. Hino is saying, I do believe it is the chemist, but we'll have to see exactly. I'll be curious. It'll be great to see if she ties all into it. Yeah. So, okay, y'all. So yeah, let me know. This was a nice start. I guess we'll see where it goes. Nothing spectacular, but they could prove us wrong. Till then, stay safe out there and stay creepy. Talk to you later.